I'm watching the Korean Mafia boss I love choke on his own blood while my sister's hands tighten around his throat. My gun is pressed against his temple and my finger is on the trigger, but I can't pull it. Can't kill him. Can't save him either. Min-joon looks up at me with those dark eyes that still hold love even though he knows the truth now, knows everything was a lie, and he whispers the same words he said 6 months ago when this all started. I will have you both tonight. My name is Safiya, and I came to Seoul to destroy this man. My sister Thandai when I planned it for 2 years. Kang Min-joon, 37 years old. Korean Mafia boss who controls half the city's underground. We were supposed to seduce him, get close, take everything, and disappear. Clean revenge for what men like him represent, the kind of violence that reminds us of the corrupt officials who killed our father back in Tanzania. Except I fell in love with him. And now I'm standing in his penthouse at 3 in the morning with my sister screaming at me to pull the trigger while the man who taught me what it means to be truly seen bleeds out on imported marble. Thank you for being here. What I'm about to tell you is how my sister and I tried to con a monster and got conned by our own hearts instead. Stay until the end because this goes places you won't expect. 6 months earlier, Safiya and Thandai walked through Incheon Airport with 4 suitcases and enough rage to level a city. The plan was 2 years in the making, born the night their mother died of heartbreak 6 months after watching her husband get murdered by corrupt officials who wanted the family's coastal land near Dar es Salaam. Their father had been honest, hard-working. Built a successful fishing business and bought land that appreciated when the government wanted to develop the coastline. Then officials came with fake documents. When he refused to surrender what he'd built, they drowned him. Called it a fishing accident. Their mother never recovered, just stared at the ocean until her heart quit from exhaustion. The sisters were left with nothing. No land, no money, no justice. Just each other and anger that doesn't fade. It ferments. Thandai found Min-joon during her research on international crime networks. Korean Mafia, Ethiopian mother, brutal reputation, and one weakness they could exploit. He had a thing for African women. Beautiful, educated ones who reminded him of his mother who died when he was 12. It wasn't just attraction. It was pathology they could use. They spent their last money on tickets and visas. Safiya enrolled in business school at Korea University. Thandai got a job at an upscale lounge where Min-joon's crew did business. The plan was surgical. Get close from 2 angles. Make him obsessed. Take everything. Thandai made first contact 3 weeks after landing. She was working at Club Azure when Min-joon walked in with 6 men in expensive suits. She served his VIP section, made eye contact half a second longer than professional, smiled suggesting possibility but not availability, and walked away before he could speak. It worked. Min-joon asked about her. Came back the next night requesting her section. Offered to buy her a drink when her shift ended. Thandai declined politely, said she didn't drink with customers. The refusal was strategic. Men like Min-joon were used to getting what they wanted. Denial made them obsessive. He escalated. Flowers. A job offer at twice her salary. Thandai turned it all down with polite distance that drove him insane. 3 weeks of chasing before she finally agreed to coffee. Just coffee. Daytime. Public. They met at a cafe in Itaewon. Min-joon arrived in a suit that cost more than Thandai's entire wardrobe, 2 bodyguards waiting outside. He was handsome in that dangerous way. Sharp jawline, calculating eyes, presence that made spaces feel smaller. They talked for 2 hours. He asked about Tanzania, her family, what brought her to Seoul. She fed him the prepared story. Parents dead, no siblings, came for education and a fresh start. All lies except the dead parents' part. Min-joon told her about his mother. Ethiopian. Beautiful. Died of cancer when he was young. His Korean father loved her desperately and became something else entirely after losing her. Turned cold, brutal, raised Min-joon to inherit a criminal empire with iron fists and no mercy. Thandai listened and thought about how easy this would be. Meanwhile, Safiya worked a different angle. She'd enrolled in a business course that used Min-joon's legitimate tech company as a case study. She wrote a brilliant analysis that caught attention. Her professor forwarded it to industry contacts. One worked for Min-joon. The invitation came via email. Would she present her analysis to the executive team? Safiya accepted and prepared like she was preparing for war. The offices were sleek glass and chrome in Gangnam. Safiya presented to 8 executives, brilliant and confident, not just analyzing their strategy but proposing 3 innovative approaches they hadn't considered. When she finished, Min-joon walked in. He'd been watching via video feed. Said her presentation was the most interesting thing he'd heard in months. Offered her an internship immediately. The internship gave her access to financial systems, client lists, business relationships. She proved herself indispensable. Min-joon started stopping by her desk to ask questions, get opinions, chat about nothing. Safiya kept it professional, friendly but boundaried. 6 weeks in, he asked her to dinner. Business dinner, he clarified. Safiya agreed. What was supposed to be business lasted 4 hours and covered everything except business. They talked about Tanzania, Seoul, ambition, loneliness, what it meant to build something in places that didn't want you to succeed. Min-joon was different than expected. Intelligent, controlled, but surprisingly vulnerable. Talked about the pressure of being his father's son, inheriting an empire built on violence while trying to legitimize parts without seeming weak. About wanting to be more than his blood demanded. Safiya responded with her own constructed vulnerability. Losing her parents, being alone in a foreign country, fearing she'd never be more than a diversity hire. She made it real enough to believe. And somewhere in the performance, something shifted. The conversation felt less like reconnaissance and more like connection. The relationship with Thandai progressed faster. She'd finally agreed to an actual date. Min-joon took her to a private restaurant room where they served courses Thandai couldn't pronounce. He was charming, attentive, listened to answers. When he drove her home, he kissed her at a red light and it was hungry, intense, weeks of restraint breaking. They had sex in his car in an empty garage, fast and rough. Min-joon was different with Thandai. Less controlled. More raw. He texted her at 2 a.m. wanting to see her. Called during the day just to hear her voice. The obsession was blooming exactly as predicted. With Safiya, the pace was deliberate. 3 more dinners before he tried to kiss her. She let him but pulled back, said this was complicated, she needed to think. The hesitation made him want her more. He promoted her to a different division so he wasn't technically her supervisor, then asked again. Safiya made him wait another week before saying yes. Their first real date was different. No expensive showmanship. Min-joon took Safiya to a quiet bookstore cafe where they talked about philosophy and business theory. He admitted things he'd never told anyone. About feeling trapped in a life he didn't choose. About violence he'd committed and couldn't undo. About wanting to be something other than his father's weapon. Safiya listened and felt something dangerous in her chest. Empathy. Understanding. The man across from her wasn't just a target. He was complicated, damaged, trying to be better. When they kissed that night it was slow and careful and felt nothing like part of a con. 3 months in, both relationships were established. Min-joon was seeing both sisters without knowing they were related. The sisters met weekly to coordinate. They had access to his personal life through Thandai, business operations through Safiya. Everything was going according to plan except Safiya was starting to mean the things she said to him. The collision happened on a Thursday. Min-joon asked to meet Safiya for lunch. She thought it was another date until she saw his expression. Something was wrong. He told her there was someone else. He couldn't keep lying. He was in love with Safiya but seeing another woman and couldn't end it. He was apologizing, asking for time, saying Safiya deserved honesty. Safiya's mind raced. Was he talking about Thandai? She played it carefully, said she appreciated honesty and needed time to think. Asked who the other woman was. Min-joon said her name was Thandai. That same night, Min-joon told Thandai about the other woman. Someone he loved. But he couldn't give Thandai up. Didn't know what to do. Thandai made a decision. Told him not to choose. What if he brought them both together? Introduced them. Maybe they could figure something out. Min-joon looked stunned but agreed. The dinner was Saturday at a neutral restaurant. Min-joon arrived first, nervous. Then Safiya walked in wearing black. Then Thandai appeared in red. The three made eye contact. Min-joon looked between them, confused. Started to introduce them. Then stopped. Saw the resemblance. His face went pale. Thandai spoke first. Said this was her sister. Min-joon recoiled. Asked what was happening. Safiya sat down and said they hadn't known he was seeing both of them until this week. Acted shocked and hurt. The dinner was 3 hours of accusations. Min-joon swore he had no idea they were related. Said he'd fallen for each separately, for different reasons. He looked genuinely devastated. Kept apologizing, asking how he could fix this. Near the end, Thandai dropped the proposition. They'd discussed it and there might be a solution. If Min-joon wanted them both, he could have them both. But under their terms. Full transparency. Move in together. And they get brought into his real business. All of it. No secrets. Equal partnership. Min-joon stared like he'd heard wrong. Asked if they were serious. Safiya nodded. Either all three together with full honesty, or they both walk. He agreed without hesitation. The arrangement began the following week. Both sisters moved into Min-joon's penthouse in Gangnam. Within days they were sharing his bed, all three tangled together, and it worked in ways that should have been impossible. Min-joon brought them into his operations gradually. Showed them how money moved, introduced them to his people, taught them the networks. Thandai handled logistics. Safiya managed finances. They became indispensable. And somewhere in those months, the con stopped being a con for Safiya. She woke up one morning tangled between her sister and the men they came to destroy and realized she didn't want to leave. She wanted this. Wanted him. Wanted the impossible life they were building. Thandai saw it and said nothing at first. Then one night when Min-joon was out, she confronted Safiya. Asked point blank if she was backing out. They argued for the first time in their lives. Thandai said they came for revenge, for justice, for their parents. Min-joon was a criminal who destroyed lives and didn't deserve redemption. Safiya argued that people could change, that maybe they could have both revenge and this life. Thandai's voice went cold. Said Safiya had forgotten who they were. That love was making her weak. That she was betraying everything their parents died for. Safiya said their parents would want them happy. Thandai said their parents would want justice. The argument ended with both in tears and no resolution. Thandai walked away and started planning alone. 2 weeks later, she poisoned the wine. Dinner was supposed to be celebratory. 6 months since moving in. Min-joon opened expensive wine, poured 3 glasses. They toasted. 30 minutes later, both Min-joon and Safiya started feeling sick. Then worse. Min-joon collapsed first. Safiya followed. Both conscious but weakening. Thandai stood over them with a gun from Min-joon's safe. Her face was cold. She told them the truth. How they'd planned this for 2 years. How every moment was calculated. How Safiya was supposed to be strong enough to finish it but had gone soft. So Thandai was finishing alone. Min-joon looked at Safiya with devastation. Asked if it was true. If everything had been a lie. Safiya was crying, too weak to speak. Managed to say his name. Say sorry. Say it wasn't all fake. Thandai told her to shut up. Said there was an antidote in her bag. 2 doses. She was going to save herself, let them die, and take over his operations. Already had codes and access. Would tell everyone they were killed in the same attack that killed the boss. But then she looked at Safiya and something cracked. Said she'd hoped Safiya would die first so she wouldn't have to watch her sister choose a monster over family. Her hand shook on the gun. Safiya found her voice. Said Thandai didn't have to do this. They could walk away. Just take money and leave. Thandai said there was no walking away. Just revenge or death. Min-joon surprised them by speaking. Said Thandai was right. He deserved this. Had done terrible things. Destroyed families. Maybe this was justice. Told Safiya to take the antidote with her sister. Save themselves. The words broke something in Safiya. She dragged herself toward Thandai's bag. Both women thought she was reaching for the antidote. Instead, Safiya pulled out her phone and pressed a button. 3 of Min-joon's guards burst through the door. Thandai spun toward them, weapon rising. The guards fired. Shots to the shoulder and leg that dropped her instantly. Safiya crawled to her sister, sobbing. Thandai was screaming, asking why. Why would Safiya betray her? Choose him over family. Safiya held her sister and cried harder than she'd cried since their mother died. Said she was sorry. So sorry. But she couldn't let Thandai kill him. Couldn't let her sister become a murderer. The poison wasn't real anyway. Safiya had switched it days ago when she suspected something. They were never in danger. Just saline and sedatives. Thandai stared with absolute betrayal. Said Safiya was dead to her. That she'd saved a monster and killed her own sister. That she'd never forgive this. The guards took Thandai away. Min-joon recovered, sat up, looked at Safiya with questions he was afraid to ask. She told him everything. Their dead parents. The revenge plot. How it was supposed to end with him destroyed. How she'd fallen in love and couldn't go through with it. How she'd been protecting him for weeks. Min-joon asked if any of it had been real. Safiya said yes. More real than anything else in her life. She loved him. Completely. Even knowing what he was. What they both were. He asked what happened now. Safiya said she didn't know. Her sister hated her. Everything was broken. Min-joon pulled her close and said maybe broken things could be rebuilt into something better. That was 4 hours ago. Now Safiya stands where Thandai was being held before transfer. Her sister is handcuffed, bandaged, looking at her with eyes holding nothing but contempt. Thandai speaks first. Says Safiya chose wrong. That one day she'll realize it and regret everything. That love doesn't erase what people are. Safiya says maybe she's right. But it's her mistake to make. She loves Thandai. Always will. But she can't go back to who they were. Can't unsee Min-joon as human instead of target. She's choosing to build instead of destroy. Thandai says it counts for nothing. Turns away. Refuses to look at her sister again. Safiya walks out and finds Min-joon waiting. He asks what he's going to do with Thandai. Min-joon says he's sending her back to Tanzania with money to start over. Clean passport, new identity, no charges. She tried to kill him but she's Safiya's sister. That means something. Safiya breaks down completely. Min-joon holds her while she sobs for her sister, her parents, the revenge that will never happen, and the impossible choice she made. Later they stand on the balcony overlooking Seoul. Safiya asks if he can ever trust her again. Min-joon says trust is overrated. He'd rather have honesty. She was honest when it mattered. Chose him when she didn't have to. That's more than most people in his world give him. They stay there until sunrise, 2 people who met as predator and prey and became something else entirely. Safiya thinks about her parents and hopes they'd understand. Hopes choosing love over revenge doesn't make her weak. Just human. If this story grabbed you, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me if Safiya made the right choice or if Thandai was justified. Smash that like button if you stayed until the end. You're the real ones. Thank you for being here, for listening to this messy, complicated story about love and revenge and the impossible choices that define us.